Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're going to be creating a local authentication or biometric authentication uh, wrapper class that's going to handle our biometric auth. And biometric auth, in case if you have not encountered yet, is basically your touch ID or face ID, and it's handled with a framework called local authentication. Okay, so I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to call this BiometricAuth. Okay, and we're going to import local authentication. I'm going to create a class BiometricAuth. Now this is going to have a function, a static function, and this static function is going to call try BiometricAuth. Okay, it's going to have a completion, escaping. It's going to take a bool and return a void. Okay, and then we're going to create, first we're going to create our context as local authentication context. So LA context, going to create our error type, so NS error. All right, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to check for if the biometric authentication is allowed or not. Okay, so we're going to say if context dot can evaluate policy. Okay, and this is what we're going to use to see if device supports biometric auth. So we're going to say use the one that has device owner authentication with the biometric. So device owner is going to be authenticated using biometric method. Now if user has not enrolled into touch ID or face ID, right, so they actually declined using that, then this evaluation is going to return false. Okay, in that case we're going to actually fall back into password strategy. But if they have enrolled, then we're going to ask for the permissions. Okay, so that is important because that means we need to add an entry into our info.plist. So while we are at it, let's go ahead and jump onto our info.plist, and we are going to add a new entry, and we're going to look for privacy face ID. Okay, touch ID you don't need it, you don't need it for touch ID, but face ID definitely. So there is an entry called privacy face ID usage description, and here you need to provide a string value which is gonna be presented to your user when the prompt shows up, and this value should, this string should be convincing your customer for in order to use their biometric authentication. So for our case, I'm just gonna say face ID needed to authenticate. That's it. All right, you choose your own string, whatever you feel like that actually convinces. The best practice or best strategy for success is to basically explain them why you need it. So you can actually to authenticate, or you can say to secure nodes. Okay, so you can do something like that. All right, so let's go back to BiometricAuth, and basically once you have you've been able to successfully evaluate that user's device support basically biometric and touch ID authentication. In that case, we're going to create a reason first. So we're going to create a reason string, and this is simply going to be authenticate to unlock, and we're going to pass this in the context dot evaluate. So basically first we asked the device if it can evaluate, right? And if it can, then we are calling evaluate. Okay, and we're going to use the overload that takes the policy, and we can say use the device owner with biometric. Localized reason is going to be your reason string. It's localized reason because you can actually have a localized string in case of this reason, and like reason string. And then it takes a completion. That completion gives us if auth was success or not, and if there's any error. Okay, so we're gonna check for those things. So we're gonna first check for error. So we can say error is nil, right? If not, then we're gonna print right, and we're gonna call our completion as false here, and we're simply gonna return from here. Okay, otherwise we're gonna call dispatch queue dot main dot async, and we're gonna call our completion out success over there. Okay, now if we fail to evaluate, in that case we're gonna put else statement. We're gonna say if let error string error string. Okay, and we're gonna call our completion to false here as well. Okay, so that is all literally you need to support your biometric authentication. Okay, so this we know it's not gonna be nil because we already checked for it. So if it's nil, it shouldn't have gone inside, so we can force unwrap that one. Okay, so yeah, so this function right here is in its entirety basically will be able to handle your face ID and your touch ID along with permissions dialog, right? That's all you need. Now there's one more that you need, and this actually returns. So we're going to create a static function, biometric auth supported. So we're going to simply query the device to see if it is supported, and we're going to return la context dot can evaluate policy device owner with biometric, and error pointer is going to be nil. Okay, so we're going to use this in our class, in our app as well, to basically check if biometric authentication is accessible or not, or supported or not. Okay, all right, with that our BiometricAuth wrapper is complete, and this basically brings us to the end of this video. And in the next video we're gonna create a password helper which is going to basically help us store password into that keychain. So we don't have to directly deal with keychain wrapper, but there is a class that actually manages for the storing, updating, validating, changing, and all those good things for the password. Okay, so that's gonna be up next in the next video. Okay, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you.